It's the biggest legal tech conference in the world. 1,500 lawyers were there, a lot of expos, a lot of vendors, hundreds of speakers. But here's what I got out of it. If you do a lot of testimonies and depositions, you might want to check out Scribe.ai. That seemed to me like one of the better practical uses of AI that's actually in use. It's not an idea. With these tools, I would definitely sign up for a demo, definitely sign up for it, go through the motions. You will learn about how these things work, and just the practice of it is well worth it. So again, if you do any testimonies and the depositions, check that out. If you're into contracts, Henchman was definitely the top tool for that. They've been at it for a couple of years. They're a Europe-based startup. They just recently came to America, so not that people know them. So if you're into contracts, definitely worth checking out Henchman. This one and AltFi ended up winning the startup contest, but I was not impressed. Their pitch was they help you fix legal pricing and fix fee management. Kind of obscure. And my problem with them was, okay, let's just say this thing helps me figure out my fee management, but I understand how it could continue helping me. But, if you're looking for alternative ways to be able to, I guess, offer your services, something to scope out. But it was obscure for me. I'm like, okay, I understand you fix your prices once, but how do you maintain that? There might be something that maybe I don't know about, but feel free to check that out. And also, I realized that a lot of these tools are actually tools that your VA should use, not necessarily for you. So when they were presenting it for the lawyer to go do it. I'm like, wait a minute. These tools aren't really necessarily, yes, there are some tools that the lawyer needs to use. Most of these tools are tools for your team. So you still need good VAs to be able to run these tools for you. So it basically doesn't replace VAs. If anything, it requires more of a VA to help to actually use these to your VAs. So just make sure you get your VAs and your team involved. It's not just you learning how to use this tool. Also, Mika, the referral platform. There's a bunch of these referral platforms worth checking out, joining, being part of it. I'm not part of it, but feel free to check that out. And then also another one that really stood out was AI.law, which is for legal drafting with AI. It identifies claims, analyzes the complaint, responds to discovery. You can feed it AI documents and does contracts too. And this one seemed like the most usable tool that I saw. Feel free to check that out. And again, pretty early stages of these things, but that was day one. Day two, I realized sitting there thinking, being surrounded by AI. I'm like, what are the practical applications of AI for us? And I realized GPT is one of them. The other one that I think is a main focus for us to really understand is multimodal. Multimodal just means be able to combine text with audio, with video, with different formats of content, different formats of data, and for it to be able to communicate with each other. So one of the ways that I've been in the last couple of weeks utilizing a lot is the ChatGPT mobile app. If you're not on it, if you haven't downloaded it, go ahead and go to your app store and search for ChatGPT. And not only can you obviously use it on your phone, but they also have a upload picture function, which just yesterday they ended up actually somehow removing. It used to be down here left. I don't know where it went, but that has been one of the top ways that I've been using AI. Just taking pictures of pages of things that I can't figure out. Just take pictures of it and ask GPT, summarize this, transcribe this. What's the main takeaways of this? How can I fix this? Where can I buy this? All these things where I'm able to feed it a picture, which again, I'm not sure why they took off the feature since yesterday. I don't know. I guess they're doing an update, hopefully. That has been able to help me a lot. So try to get familiar, start using it, taking pictures of the stuff. Also, I sat in on Guy. Guy is a lawyer. He's also a Google expert. And he talked about Google My Business, which is super important. We've talked about this a lot over the years. It's a low-hanging fruit to be able to set up your Google My Business. And the breakthrough for me was, I was surprised as Guy was teaching about filling out your profile and having descriptions and having pictures, all that stuff, all the fundamental stuff. So I saw a lot of people didn't have those things. Make sure your Google My Business profiles are filled out. Call to action for that. If you don't know how to do it, it's just fill it out and add pictures to it. It should be pretty straightforward. Just fill it out. And if you're inside of our program, which it should be, Module 6 shows you how to get Google reviews, a lot of Google reviews. If you just do that, that's by far the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to getting free clients without paying for it. So make sure you have that. It's a foundational kind of thing to have for your law firm. And the reason why you want to post on Google My Business is it shows to Google that you're active. So you're more likely to put it's one of the factors. It's not like you start posting and all of a sudden you start getting clients. So if your profile is optimized, you're getting a lot of Google reviews and you're doing posting, great, you have the best chance. So it's all the factors really add up to the success, not just the one thing. Always have that in mind with these algorithms. So does it help? Sure. As long as it's just a $5 to $10 VA that does it. But yeah, definitely low-hanging fruits, that's for sure. Very important thing that also came out was one of the main AI guys from Microsoft was there. This guy was literally one of the top guys, I think, in the world. He just looked very normal, but like he's a 365 guru, basically, Microsoft 365 guru. Feel free, I'll put his link in the chat. Definitely, if you're in Microsoft 365, definitely somebody to follow and learn from. So for my Microsoft users, and actually asked the poll questions about how many of us are Microsoft 365 versus Google Workspace. Let me just end the poll right now so I can show you guys the result of you can see the result of our poll. The first question that we asked in our poll question is, how often do you currently use ChatGPT? I've been consistently asking this since last year and I've seen these numbers grow. Amazing. So 50% of us are using this on a daily, if not once a week. Great. We're definitely way ahead of the market, that's for sure. For some of us that are only using it once a month or really rarely, hopefully the next couple of weeks we'll be getting you on that train to be able to use it on a daily basis. It's a game changer if you're not. So that's good. Second question, relevant question for us right now is, are you a Google Workspace or Microsoft 365? I'm so glad to see at least 2/3 of us are on Google Workspace. Great. If not, if you're on Microsoft 365, that's great too. Actually, there's some good news that I'll share with you here. And then for those two that are not, we need to get on one of those. I personally lean towards Google, but Microsoft is good too. So let's talk about Microsoft. Actually, I think your answer will be answered right now. So for Microsoft product users, Microsoft Copilot is inside the apps, which is like the most practical application of AI inside of Microsoft. If you're not using it, it should be available. I don't know too much about it. Microsoft is not my world, so whatever I share with you, definitely research and look into it. But yeah, these are like, you need to be using these days. The Microsoft Copilot basically integrates inside of your Word, your team, your Outlook, and your Excel, and your OneNote. And it basically helps create documents, outlines, presentations, and more, which is great. Also summarizes documents for you, Words or PDFs, and allows you to take questions about the data in your firm. So imagine everything that you have inside your OneNote and your Outlook and everything, you're able to ask. I forgot I remember it was a specific website page that you go to. I'm not sure whether it was Microsoft Copilot, but you go there and you're able to ask questions about all your files. So, if you were to ask for this client, when did they get into a car accident, whatever that is. And it's able to pull that out, search all your entire files and get that for you. That was pretty cool. Also, the Graph, I guess it's called the Graph, is a tool inside your Microsoft account that lets you ask questions. There we go. This is what it was. It's called the Graph. It's a tool inside your Microsoft account that lets you ask questions to find info on your own files, notes, emails, and meetings. Great. Now all of a sudden, I'm sure Google will release the same feature soon, but Microsoft is already ahead on this. And lo and behold, this week, Google Workspace released their Gemini for Business, which we'll be talking about later today. So that's good news. And we're way ahead. Literally just came out on Wednesday. I've already subscribed to it. I'm going to show you how to subscribe to it if you want to get on it. It's great. So that's where we are with Microsoft. If you're on Microsoft, start using Microsoft Copilot, look into the Graph, and start utilizing that. Also explained how to use Copilot. You're able to ask it from your meetings, recap what I missed, suggest some follow-ups questions to what someone said, rephrase what someone said in simpler terms, summarize the meeting, were there any action items for me? When you have these meetings on Google, when you go to Copilot, you're able to just ask those questions. So, you're able to know what to do after the meeting, what key dates and deadlines were discussed, all that stuff. And obviously it's very helpful. Again, not just for you, but also for your team to utilize these as part of the Microsoft ecosystem that you're on. Overall, my impressions was I was very impressed with Microsoft's product for businesses. They're definitely ahead of Google at this stage, but I have a feeling Google will catch up and even supersede Microsoft capabilities. And again, this week, I saw that actually happening. It feels like to me, they're like a month or 2 months behind, maybe a couple of months behind, but Google is Google. And I think they're going to do whatever it takes to be able to catch up. And they need to, because their entire livelihood is on the line. They need to figure it out as soon as possible. So that was pretty fun. Again, I'll be talking about Gemini for Google Workspace a little bit later. So yeah, that's for our Google users. Also, I've been foreseeing where this AI practical application for lawyers is going to head to. And for me, let me just put it out there. It's autonomous agents. Nobody talks about this, but for me, it's a blaring, screaming phenomenon that I think will be very important for us to understand and be able to start using. And nobody at the conference talked about it, first of all. That's a surprise. And then also when I even went up to Ben Shore and asked him, like, Ben, how do you think that, first of all, are there autonomous agents that Microsoft has built? And he's like, I don't think so. Like, okay. And I'm like, could you explain to me, is Microsoft working on it? It's like, I don't know. It was basically they did it. It felt like to me that there wasn't a part of their pipeline. What are autonomous agents? Autonomous agents is just AI plus actions being done for you. Okay, it's agents that just go do stuff for you. Practical example is very extreme case of it is an agent that can answer emails for you. Obviously, it'll take some time for it to get really good to be able to answer it correctly. But just imagine these little AI agents running around doing stuff for you, start filing stuff for you. It gives you reminders. Hey, you got these 4 things coming up. I've already done 3 of these for you, but this one I couldn't do for you. So that's, I think, where we're going to be heading. And again, we're way ahead. We're in the 0.001% to even be talking about this, let alone trying to start, seeing where this exists and how we can use these. But be on the lookout for those kinds of things. But Ben Shore did call out that Microsoft Power Automate allows it to build these autonomous agents, which I guess I'm assuming it's basically like Microsoft GPTs along with APIs. They could probably get them to do stuff. Maybe Mike Smith have some comments about this, but yeah, something to look out for. Also, I sat in on a class on ethics of law firm advertising and solicitation. A lot of good, valuable advice. Nice. Priyasha, if we could talk about it. I would love to be able to see how you were able to use it, because you're way ahead of the game. But going back to the ethics of law firm advertising, really cool guy. Also got his card. His name was, if anybody wants his contact information or wants to deal with this stuff, let me just share it. It is. His name was Mika. Again, it's just an interesting call coming in exactly at this one. All right, so Mika is literally a lawyer who just focuses on the ethics of law firm advertisement. And his big lessons that I learned is that it's rarely ever the consumer who basically files complaints. It's usually the state bar who proactively looks for ethical things, happening. So just have that in mind. And we basically said very practically is not all states cause issues. It's usually some certain states. And I pressed on later in the presentation, I'm like, what are those states? So he called out Florida. Florida is by far the toughest. Not only do you have to, every time you put up an advertisement or you do any advertising, you have to get it approved. You basically have to submit it, $150 or $250 if you're rushing it to be submitted for approval, which is an extra step, but they're also very strict. So Florida, this is the nature of the beast, and Florida just happens to be very tough. Also, the other states that he called out were Texas and Louisiana and Nevada and New York. And he basically said it depends on the judge, depends on the state bar at the time, but those in his experience have been where basically he gets most of his clients in those particular states. If you're in one of those states, it's very important to just make sure you study it and know what you have to do. Unfortunately, I can't provide any specific advice. There was no specific advice presented at the session. But if you're in one of those states, then I would look further, do some research. I would use Google Gemini to do my research in regards to this and just, make sure you're well versed into that. Yeah, Alabama, he didn't call out Alabama, but I've heard some things about Alabama too. But he also called out specific ways that it usually happens. Usually it's badges of associations. So if you have a badge on your website, you're not part of the association. That's usually a common issue. And then also anytime you use the word certified or expert, that's usually a red flag. So make sure to avoid those words and just make sure the badges and your associations actually match the associations that you're part of. And that was that. Also, some a way around, not a way around it, but a way to be able to advertise in these states is hiring a UBE lawyer. This is a very advanced technique, which we could talk about hopefully in an in-person session, but that's a good way. I confirmed with them. They said, yeah, that checks out. It's a good way to become multi-state. So that's good for anybody who knows what that is. Also, mass text advertisement said it was an issue. If you just go mass text people, you need to be careful. They have disclaimers. And again, it depends on the state. You need to know what your state requires. Have that in mind. And also ask them, what are the typical grievances? Basically said, if you're a first-time violator, then it's just pretty much like a slap on the wrist to tell you to fix it and you move on. And the issue really happens when you're a repeat offender. So that, and he said also, another thing that he said that stood out in my mind is, if you follow the rules to the T, again, this is not legal advice, this is not ethical advice that I'm about to share with you, but just sharing with you my commentary. And what he said, if you follow the rules to the T, you're never ever going to do business, you're not going to grow. So it's like, you gotta basically take some risks, talk to a lawyer who knows what they're doing, let them review it, because these things are not so black and white. So it's a good idea, again, if you're concerned about that, to talk to somebody like Mike. I'm gonna share with you his website, save his contact. I definitely did. And if you're concerned, just to go to do a paid consultation, whatever with them, get it checked out and make sure you're okay. Melanie asked, what about if you are bar certified in your practice type? Do you have an issue with expert or specialized? From what I know, Melanie, it depends on your state. Sometimes it's, as long as you're certified, then you're good to go. But some states will require you to just get that checked out or verified with the state bar before you put it out there. Something like that, from what I remember. So again, I would start off my research on Google Gemini, say in my states, what does it say about, do I need to submit anything to the state bar when it comes to being board certified? And if you this is pretty much the main points, the main takeaways, but here's my big lessons. Overarching things that really stood out. Sam's big lessons. And that is, number one, is we're way ahead of the pack. Okay. We had our conference 5 or 6 months ago, ABA 2023. Not only was the information a lot better, but a lot more practical. We actually took out our laptop and we created our GPT agents. We talked about some of the different things. I shared with you how to build your chatbot, shared with you how to create a one-page lead nurture page with ChatGPT that helps you nurture your leads. And it's always, for me, so number one is, if you're here, you're part of the program, you're way ahead of the game. And again, based on where you guys are, we're way ahead of the game. Number two is, it's all about the practical application that matters. There's a lot of people who are just talking about theories and things like that. Great, but we always try to bring it down to earth. And the third one, I think, was the constant thing that came to my head is, this is all noise. This is all noise, especially when it went with the vendors and all the different things, advice that I kept hearing. It felt like to me it was 95% noise and 5% practical. A lot of the same marketing companies offering the same things, a lot of the same CRMs doing the same thing. And that's why I try to, and our team tries to, filter it down for you. We act as the guinea pigs. We go through the motions. I try to sit through as many of these sessions and stuff as possible, watch a lot of YouTube videos, see all the Facebook groups, all that stuff. It's better to stay focused, listen to somebody who can filter it down for you, versus you sit on your phone, a Facebook group post that says, hey, have you guys heard about this tool? It's a tool that you never heard about. It's a tool that probably just came out a couple months ago. And now you go down the rabbit hole and you probably waste a day or two trying to set up this tool that you didn't need in the first place. So, just be mindful of that. 95% noise and 5% actual practical. You want to hone in on the one thing that really helps move the needle. All right, so that was the big breakaways.